Hi everyone, this is Katie from Clark & Barker. Today we're going to show you a before garden tour. So Aaron and I bought this house mid-August this year, just moved in, and we're planning on doing some major garden transformations. Instead of keeping it all to ourselves, we thought we'd bring you along for the journey. Where we're standing right here is our first garden area. So you can see it's kind of the back porch area. It gets a lot of really direct, intense sunlight, and so we're gonna have to be really intentional about that when we plant. You can see it's so intense, it just makes the paint peel right off the door, so we'll have to repaint that as well. But right now we're standing under a covered area. It's just some clear plastic that's put over a wrought iron pergola, I guess. And it does provide a little bit of shade for some of these plants. You can see around the back porch area, we have some very geometric looking beds. And we're hoping to do a little bit of bed redesign there, where we make the edges a little bit more curved, a little bit more organic, and just provide a little bit more space for some of these plants. You can see we're also flanked by a lot of roses back here. So roses do really well in Colorado. Not as much, I don't think, when they're right up against the house. So we're gonna have to find some good plants for the garden beds that do flank the hot brick. But you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5th rose over there. They're potentially original to the house. So if you do look down at some of these, maybe not that one, but this one for sure, its hand, or the sort of the crown of the rose, is super big, super knotty. So it's definitely been here a long time, and they do precede the previous owner. So they were planted by the original owner of this house. Our house is about 100 years old. We're gonna have her birthday in a couple of years. And so these roses, I want to reinvigorate them, potentially add a couple more roses to this area. And just revitalize some of these older roses. We did see some of them bloom this year. So in August we had this deep, dark red rose bloom. We also had this one bloom. You can see this one has some dead branches that I'll have to cut back, but it seems as if it's a climbing rose. We'll have to see how much it climbs when we give it a little bit of something to climb on. But it's a nice pale pink bloom on this one that looks a little bit like a tea rose. I've heard this one over here smells really good. I have no idea what color it is, so that'll be a surprise. So this is definitely an early summer bloomer since we weren't able to see it. And then there's one more rose over there that's an earlier bloomer. Again, don't know what color it is, but we'll see in early summer next year. So yeah, that's this area. Now if we head over to the raised garden beds, this is kind of the most structured area we have in our garden. You can see that they're just cedar garden beds. We've cleared out this area for the most part. There used to be just dozens and dozens of sunflowers when we first moved in to the house. So the previous owners planted those. And we left them for a really long time, let them dry out and be spent so that the birds and squirrels could forage, and they loved that. But when it started to rain, they got a little bit mushy. So we removed those for you for this video, but you can see some stragglers of what that looked like in our jungle of sunflowers. These beds are really nicely done, at least that they've kind of been leveled off over here. Clearly used some bigger cedar planks to build them, but they're sort of falling apart. And as you can also see, there are parts of the garden that are shaded almost the entirety of the day. So I think what we're gonna do here is potentially move them and rebuild these garden beds. We're toying around with the idea of a formal potager style so that there's some extra room in the middle. Or we could just, potentially change these beds, the dimensions, or where they're placed in this yard. Also looking to level it out just a little bit more, potentially instead of using this patio, use some pea gravel or something like that that is a little bit more comfortable to walk on and allows a little bit more water penetration into the soil below. looking to the side garden bed that we have on our house, you can see lots of lilacs. They've already put buds on, so I kind of missed the time when I should have been pruning the lilacs. Whoops, but we were still unpacking at the time. So I'm just gonna let them bloom as they go next year, maybe come in and trim some of the dead branches off, but for the most part, just leave them to do what they do for this coming season. Now, as we move over this way towards our garage, you can see we have this nice footpath that goes out to our garage and driveway area. You can see then we have our garage and kind of this hard structure hot tub going on, a little bit of a patio. This is the part of our yard that's the shadiest, and so it's the last thing to melt when it snows here in Colorado. We are in Denver, Colorado, I should probably say that too. And so we're looking to use this space that kind of gets a respite from the sun in the summer, and build out the patio a little bit more. You can see over here, this is a really high traffic area for us, so even the grass doesn't really grow well here, just because we're constantly using it as a throwaway. So planning on building out maybe this patio a little bit, and then building some kind of garden bed to flank this patio area so we can just really enjoy it. I've never owned a hot tub before, so landscaping around the hot tub's gonna be interesting. But I just imagine sitting in the hot tub and enjoying kind of watching my garden in the summer or in the winter time. So looking for some winter interest so we can have that interest all year long. Also have some different structures and heights of that landscaping so that we can kind of just be, I don't know, give a little bit more privacy to the hot tub, but also just have a lot of interest for us to look at. As we move to this side of our yard, we have kind of a parallel garden bed to the one on the other side. All the garden beds you see that have that big river rock on them actually have a plastic landscape cover underneath, and then they have that hardscape on top. It's a low maintenance approach. They did it really well, they being the previous owners. And so we're actually going to take advantage of that while we do our garden transformation bit by bit. We're going to leave the low maintenance areas low maintenance, and then slowly over time potentially remove some of those areas and restore some more organic or some more natural features other than the hardscape material. So over here you can see there's this really nice garden bed that's already defined. Potentially we'll do something with this so that it kind of leads from the garden bed over by the hot tub down this side of our yard. If you look to this side of our yard, this side yard, it's actually fairly wide for a side yard, at least in the city. So what we're planning to do here is maybe give some curved edges to these more geometric garden bed areas. We're also planning on limbing up this pear tree. I have no idea what pear it is. The squirrels ate all the pears this year before we could figure out what kind of pear it was. And it looks like it maybe has not seen a lot of pruning, and so we're hoping to limb up the pear tree just so that we can walk past it unobstructed. Right now you can see you can't get anywhere close to the pear tree without the lower branches hitting you. And it's sort of blocking getting to that side yard. So we're gonna limb it up, remove some of those cross-cutting branches, and we'll have a whole episode about that later on when we do that in the springtime. On this grassy area of the side bed, we're gonna create more of a metal end feature. So I ordered some bulbs. You'll see that in the bulb unboxing video as well as in the bulb planting videos that I'll post. But I've bought some fairly short, more native looking spring bulbs for this area. And so we're hoping to plant them directly in the grass. We have some muscari, some dwarf daffodils, some hyacinth, and so we'll have that in this side yard. As well, we don't have any gate to our side yard right now, but I'd love to put a gate in, and so you kind of have this grass pathway or meadowland to walk through, and then you're able to reach the front of the house where there's going to be more landscaping. All right, let's head over to the other side yard. So over here we have our rogue rose. We might transplant that, might not, depending on how we're feeling this summer. But I'd love to put it back next to some other roses and kind of just have a designated rose garden. As well, it didn't grow this big this year. We didn't see a bloom, so we don't know what kind of rose it is, but yeah, I'd just love to transplant it and let it thrive amongst the other roses in a sunnier area, frankly. These aspen are wonderful for privacy. I've usually seen arborvitae used as a landscape material up against a fence line, but here in Colorado, it's kind of a natural choice to use aspen. So really happy that the previous owners planted these. They provide a lot of shade with still a little bit of filtration of sunlight during the day. So this area actually gets a fair amount of sun. It's just right up against the fence line that rose isn't thriving. It's not living its best life. So we're gonna try to move it so it'll live its best life. Here you can actually see that there's this beautiful curved cement pathway. And then we have some kind of natural curved garden bed areas. We might return that, but that'll be one of the last things we do on this transformation because this is beautiful as is. And we use this pathway quite a bit to get from the front to the backyard. So let me take you to the front. All right, so now we're in the front yard. You can see here's our patio area. It's not going to be much of a garden transformation, but just wanted to point it out to you because we will be using it to do some potted up plants, potentially some holiday decorations. So just wanted to highlight kind of the before look. You can see I've put up some Christmas decorations. You also see pumpkin seeds all over our porch. We had some Halloween pumpkins out and these squirrels snatched the small pumpkins, ran off with them, and kind of dug their way into the big pumpkins and ate the seeds and left a complete mess. So I have to take care of that at some point too. Now if we move this way, we have a maple over on the right side of our yard. It was a little bit water stressed this year, so it was just showing signs like it was holding on to leaves longer than it should have, or it didn't fully leaf out. The edges of the leaves were super yellow and burnt. So we're just gonna try to nurture this year, see how it grows. It doesn't require a lot of pruning, so we'll probably stay away from that. We'll just wrap it up in in a couple weeks. Here in Denver, we have to wrap our trees, especially when they're this size in the wintertime, to avoid sun scald because we're constantly oscillating between freezing temperatures, feet of snow at nighttime, and then melting snow and 50, 60, 70 degree temperatures during the day. So we'll wrap that up and then just really nurture it this year, try to get it to grow as best as it can. This garden bed will do very little with. There's some existing bamboo that's been cut down. We'll probably continue to try to remove that just because we don't want a lot of invasive species like that in this area. But we sort of have this level garden bed and then a sloped area underneath this evergreen. I want to say it's a juniper, but it probably isn't. So I'll have to identify that at some point. But yeah, we're looking to put some plants that like the sun in this area and are potentially okay with sloped areas. On this side of our yard, you can see we have a very flat bed, and then similarly to the bed I just showed you, we have a very sloped area. So we're hoping to, just pick the right plant for the right place with this. Be able to do some more native plants up here, some that are shade tolerant, that do well in the understories of evergreens. And then we're going to need to find something that also grows on this kind of sloped area that gets a little bit less sunlight. Now the big elephant in the room in this garden bed is definitely this blue Colorado spruce. It's massive and it's been here for a very long time. We love it, so we're gonna just try to keep it best we can. It was recently limbed up, which has actually let in a lot more sunlight into these bed areas. So part of the bed gets sun in the morning, and then part of it gets some sun in the evening. Yeah, and it just has a lot of airflow. So really excited to have a space that, even though it's our shadiest spot in the entire garden, it does get a fair amount of sunlight. We'll be able to grow something here. Again, hardscape, landscape cloth underneath, so we're not in a huge rush to transform this garden bed, but under this mulch is just soil, so this will be really easy to tackle first. And hopefully we can create some kind of pathway that goes to the other side of our house, where hopefully someday there will be a gate and we can access the backyard on both sides. Now I'll take you down to our curb. So I just want to point out this curb area because it's actually fairly wide, and I'm really excited about that. There's hardscape and ground cloth under this, but in the main space, it's just this mulch. So bought some bulbs that I'm gonna plant in here. I think it's like 100 and something daffodils that I'm planning on putting in here, and that's all the plants that we have for right now, but hopefully we can create some big drifts of snow in here. Not drifts of snow, sorry, drifts of spring bulbs. We also have some fiber optic lines, so we're going to need to plan for that. You can see a lot of our neighbors have these big, mostly elm trees, but there are some other ones in the neighborhood. We also have a tree growing in the front, so again, want to kind of nurture that. It hasn't put out a lot of leaves this summer, and it also didn't grow a lot this summer. And so we might nurture it for one more year, see what it is going on, but it might be too stressed to really grow to its full height. So we might have to plant another tree at some point out here to replace that. But yeah, just excited about this big wide curb area. Take you back up to the porch. In this area on these steps this spring, I'm planning on getting some pots to kind of flank the stairs and put some more bulbs in there. I have some great tulips that I want to showcase and kind of add some more color to the spring yard area. Awesome. Well, that is our entire garden tour. Thanks for being here today. We're planning on doing 1 to 2 videos per week, depending on what season it is. Probably in the summer we'll have more videos because more will be happening. But we'll keep you updated about videos that we're posting. So again, thanks for being here, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.